Buon pomeriggio a tutti e benvenuti all'Info Day dedicato alle opportunità 2025 nell'MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, evento organizzato dall'APRE, dall'Agenzia per la promozione della ricerca europea, in accordo con il MUR, nell'ambito della settimana Horizon Europe 2025. Io sono Angelo D'Agostino e sono il coordinatore del team tematico che in APRE si occupa proprio delle MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions. Desideriamo ringraziare i nostri graditi ospiti e relatori per la loro partecipazione. Abbiamo il dottor Luca Sohail della DG, Direzione Generale Educazione e Cultura della Commissione Europea, che ci illustrerà le opportunità offerte nel 2025 dal programma di lavoro, dal Work Program Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, e ci illustrerà anche la nuova azione pilota MSCA Choose Europe for Science. So thanks Sohail for your presentation. Dopo l'intervento della Commissione Europea avremo la sessione di domande e risposte della Q&A gestita dalla piattaforma Slido utilizzando il codice InfoWeek. Vi chiediamo di scrivere le domande per la Commissione Europea direttamente in lingua inglese. A seguire avremo l'intervento della professoressa Luisa Torsi, rappresentante nazionale del comitato di programma Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions, che ci aggiornerà, ci darà le informazioni su quanto è stato fatto in questo periodo per risolvere il problema sui contratti di lavoro in ambito MSCA, e già ringraziamo appunto Luisa per questa stretta collaborazione tra il rappresentante e l'APRE. E infine avremo la presentazione da parte della dottoressa Anna Paola Mendoza della Marie Curie Alumni Association, che ci illustrerà proprio che cos'è la Marie Curie Alumni Italy Chapter. Non mi dilungo oltre. Ciò che chiedo ai relatori è di rispettare le tempistiche dei loro interventi, proprio perché poi alle 15:30 avremo l'altro evento, le opportunità 2025 nelle infrastrutture di ricerca. So, thanks again. I can ask you, our speaker, to adhere the scheduled time. So, dear Sohail, thanks for your participation in our National Info Day. It's a big pleasure to have with you. And the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Angelo, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I apologize for speaking in English. My Italian is not good enough for a formal presentation, but hopefully in the Q&A session, I might give it a try. So basically, I will go through the calls that we know actually coming up in the MSCA program for 2025. And as far as novelties go, as Angelo said, we have a new pilot for Choose Europe for Science, which I will tell you about towards the end of this relatively short presentation. I'm sure in the past day and a half, you've seen the chart of Horizon Europe structure and budget many times, so I will not show it to you again. I will just zoom on Pillar 1, which is the excellent science. I'm just trying to get the next slide, but it's not working from my end. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Sorry. So we are in the Pillar 1, which is called Excellent Science. So of course, a very flattering title. It doesn't mean that the other pillars are not excellent science, but it means that excellence is our number one criterion in the evaluation, meaning that excellent comes before the application, what it will be used for. To show you also that Horizon Europe has dedicated to MSCA throughout its 7 years, 6.6 billion euros. And of course, I cannot resist taking the chance to mention that since 2012 until last year, we already have 20 Nobel Prize laureates in our ranks between MSCA fellows and supervisors. Now, next year, we are going to celebrate 30 years of MSCA. And throughout these 30 years, MSCA developed a personality through principles, signature principles that everybody now associates with MSCA. The one that is the core business, which is researchers' training, skills, and career development. But also everybody knows about MSCA that it is bottom-up. Excellence is the main criterion. That is, we don't specify fields of science or topics. So you have, of course, from natural sciences to social sciences, law, even research on music. All subjects go as long as the research, design, and execution adheres to excellence. Very important for us, what we call the 3 I's, the international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary. So international, meaning that in all of our fellowships, we, let's say, oblige, if you will, that the fellow would move. You cannot get our fellowships and stay in the country where you are right now. Intersectoral, it is moving between academia and non-academia. And if not moving, inclusion in consortia of a mixture between academia and non-academia. And of course, interdisciplinary doesn't need explanation. We insist very much on having attractive working condition and employment conditions. And I see that later in this 1 hour, there will be some discussion about the current situation with the contract legislation in Italy. And finally, a bit of a subtle principle, but a very important one, which is the structural impact, meaning that the impact that an MSCA project would have on an institution after the project life is finished. So it's a lasting impact. Having, for instance, an institute after a project of MSCA changing their human resources policies, for instance. So I showed you the 6.6 billion. I showed you the features and the principles. So we put these together and we achieve these principles through actions. Currently, they are 5 actions: doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, staff exchanges, co-fund, and MSCA and citizens. I will go through one by one, including the budget allocated this year and the call deadlines, the beginning and the end. Just to mention, while I have this chart, that doctoral networks has the lion's share of the budget, 50% of the budget, and postdoctoral fellowships is about 30% of the budget. So together, these 2 actions, doctoral networks and postdoctoral fellowships, have about 80% of the MSCA budget. Doctoral networks, in a schematic way, it is one consortium. That's the project. It's a consortium with an umbrella overall research project that is divided into smaller interlinked ones, and each doctoral candidate would have one of the smaller projects, so that together the consortium put together the pieces of the puzzle for a consistent one overall research project. It has 3 types. The classical doctoral network, which is exactly what I just described, but also we have 2 specialized schemes. One is called the industrial doctorates, where the doctoral candidate is co-supervised by a supervisor from the academic institutions, but also one from the non-academic. The non-academic, of course, can be an industry, but it can also be any non-academic entity, including an NGO, a charity, a hospital, or even a government department. And we have the joint doctorates, where the doctoral candidate is enrolled in 2 different universities in 2 different countries. And at the end of the fellowship, they obtain either one joint diploma from 2 universities or 2 separate diplomas from 2 different universities. And of course, you have joint supervision, but also joint selection and joint management for the whole project. So it's a very integrated type of doctoral network. The call will open tomorrow, and it will remain open until the 25th of November. And its value is about 0.6 billion euros for this year. The postdoctoral fellowships, the call opened already in the 8th of May, and it will remain open until the 10th of September. Here, you don't have a consortium. You have an individual researcher and a hosting institute. And there are 2 types of postdoctoral fellowships. One called the European Fellowship, which means that the host institute must be in Europe. It doesn't mean that the postdoctoral fellow must be European. So here, European refers to the hosting institute, which means that it's open to all nationalities as long as they perform their postdoctoral activities either in a European member state or one of the 19 countries that are associated to Horizon Europe. The global fellowships are performed outside the EU member states or associated countries by Europeans or citizens from associated countries. And here, one important difference is that the global fellowships last for 3 years, while the European ones for 2 years, because for the global fellowships, the first 2 years are performed in the laboratory or in the premises outside Europe, and then the 3rd year, the fellow returns to their own country of origin, the host of institute of origin. So it had a return phase. Now, in the context of the postdoctoral fellowships, I need to mention 2 aspects that are or can be attractive depending on the situation. The first one is the ERA fellowships. Now, there is a category of countries named by the EU. This is not a geographic nomenclature, but an EU nomenclature, named the widening countries. And they are listed in the slide on the right, which I assume you are going to get these slides afterwards. So basically, when you apply for a postdoctoral fellowships, an MSCA postdoctoral fellowships, and you apply actually for a host institution that is in a widening country, you can tick a box to say that if I pass the threshold of excellence, but there is not enough budget to get the MSCA fellowship, I accept to get an ERA fellowship. So here, of course, anybody applying, from a widening country is advised to tick this box because you have nothing to lose. So basically, the only difference is that the ERA fellowship will not be called MSCA. So the fellow will not be an MSCA fellow, but then, you did not lose the chance of actually getting the postdoc. The other advantage is the seal of excellence. Again, you would have a case where an application made it above the 85% excellence threshold, but our budget was not enough. So in this case, we'll give you a seal of excellence. What can you do with this seal of excellence? Many countries, nationally, they develop schemes relying on our evaluation. So instead of going through the entire exercise of evaluating fellowships nationally. Say, once you have the seal of excellence from MSCA, then you can apply for our program nationally. And in that slide, there is a link to all the national programs that have the seal of excellence. The third action is the staff exchanges. And staff exchanges are interesting because they are not only limited to researchers. So here you have, the project is 4 years, and throughout these 4 years, the members of the consortium exchange staff for periods as short as 1 month and as long as 1 year. But this staff can be researchers, but also can be in the research management, administration, any colleague involved in the research project, or also lab technicians, for instance. So this is attractive in that kind of sense. The budget is 97 million, and the call date is 27th of March. It's open already and will stay open until the 8th of October. Just to mention that staff exchanges projects have a significantly higher success rate than the doctoral networks and the postdoctoral fellowships. Then this takes us to the co-fund. Co-fund is a scheme where if there is an organization that is doing, let's say, similar activities as us, they have funding programs for either doctoral or postdoctoral programs. This organization can apply for co-fund. And then we, let's say, pool resources, and the project lasts for 60 months, and it can be either for doctoral or postdoctoral programs where we follow the same rules that I described for the doctoral networks and the postdoctoral fellowships. Now, an offshoot of this co-fund is the new pilot, Choose Europe for Science. Now, the rationale behind Choose Europe for Science stemmed from the precarity of researchers' careers in Europe, especially postdoc. In the postdoc, you have short periods, usually 2 years, but some as short as 1 year and some as long as 3 years. And then it finishes, and then you start from scratch again, and then maybe have another postdoc. Some researchers have several. So this is an experiment. That's why it is a pilot, to see if there is appetite to actually change this in a systematic way. How does it work? So maybe there is too much text on this slide. I'm just describe what's on it. So basically, if an institute wins this grant, what we do is that we provide 2 to 3 years of MSCA postdoctoral fellowship if the institute commits to provide another 2 years. So here we are totaling 5 years of fellowship, plus demonstrate some serious possibilities of a longer term prospect for a more stable career. So schematically, this is basically what I said. It's the project itself lasts for 6 years, but the duration of the fellowship would be up to 5 years. It is one beneficiary, which is one institute, that is able to provide this commitment, and the maximum contribution is 3.5 million euros. You see the schedule in the next slide for the co-fund, the classical co-fund and the pilot, and also for convenience. This is the last action, which is MSCA and citizens, And here it is actions like the European Researchers' Night and Researchers at School. And the call will open on the 17th of June and stays open until the 22nd of October for a budget of 16 million. I have put together in a table all the openings and closings that I mentioned. And that's it. I tried to be quick so that we can have some times perhaps for questions. And as I said, I can experiment with my informal Italian, if you like.
Thanks, Saila, for your clear presentation and also sharing the rationale of the new pilot action MSCA Choose Europe for Science. So now we can move to the Q&A session. So all participants can send their question by using a Slido platform by entering the InfoWikes code. Now we have the first yes. Is the call MSCA Choose for Europe already open?
No. No, I mean, I put the date. I don't remember it exactly, but I think it's in the fall, maybe in October, but it's mentioned twice in the slides.
Okay, thanks. Next question. If the host institution is part of a bigger consortium, which include a widening country, the postdoc could apply for ERA fellowships?
If the host institution... No, so for the postdoc and the ERA fellowship, there is no consortium. It's a mono-beneficiary action. So there is only one beneficiary. On top of the beneficiary, there can be an associated partner, but this doesn't sign the contract. It's the beneficiary that counts. So basically, since there is no consortium, then it is the one beneficiary institute that has to be in the widening country.
Thanks. Another question. Two questions on staff exchanges. What success rates and what consequences if a beneficiary cannot implement all the PM of secondment as foreseen in proposal?
Okay, so for the first question, it varies from year to year. But when I say high success rate, just to give you like the scale that I'm talking about. So for doctoral network, it's in the order of maybe 13 or 14, like 1, 3, 1, 4. In the staff exchanges, we're talking in the order of between 25 and 40% sometimes. So it's a completely different story. It's a very high success rate. Now, what consequence if now, of course, I cannot answer this question with precision, because this is the implementation is handled by our colleagues in the executive agency. However, there is nothing special about staff exchanges. That is, if in any grant you are unable to implement the number of person month that are promised in the proposal, then of course the extent to this, are we talking about 5%, 10%, or half of it? And of course the reason, if there is force majeure or whatever, like we have cases, of course, where you are part of the consortium is a country that during the project went into war, and you cannot, of course, implement. So that's why I cannot answer this with precision. It's a case by case, and also it's not really my specialty.
Okay, thanks. Then we move to the slide for this presentation in our website. The next, for the staff exchanges, it's possible to have the average success rates of implementation of funded project.
I did not understand the question.
Yeah.
So the success rate, because any success rate will have to be of funded project. So I think this is probably the same question as before. Of what is success rate? Yeah.
So we move in other question. In the case of doctoral networks, are there constraints on presenting proposals that were not funded in past MSCA DM calls?
Yes. So basically, there is a restriction on resubmission. How? What is that? So basically, like if this year a proposal scores less than 85%, then the year after, next year, they cannot present the proposal. They can present it the year after. If the score was higher than 85%, or perhaps 80, I don't remember exactly, it's either 80 or 85%, then if it is above, then they can present it the year after. If not, then they have to wait 1 year.
Okay.
Same thing for postdoctoral, by the way.
Another question, can you better explain the Choose Europe initiatives? Thanks.
Yeah, so of course, it's a pilot, so it's the first time. So who applies? It's not an individual, but an institution. No consortium. So one institution. So we get this out of the way. And what does the applying institution get if they win the grant? They get funding from the EU for a postdoc for 2 to 3 years, on a condition that that institution, after our grant finish, continue that funding for 2 more years from their own budget. Plus, provide credible evidence that after these 5 years, they will have a credible career path for this postdoc. So here, the last part is not basic, it's not a science, but it's, let's say, you need to convince the evaluators, let's say. But I don't know what more to say. I guess,
No.
Yeah. And of course, the evaluation criteria are explained well in the work program, and there are not many. They're like for the excellence, there's just 3 criteria or so, based on these conditions that I just mentioned. Is based the employability of the postdoc after the grant.
Okay, we move to another question. In case of doctoral networks, is the involvement of companies still necessary? Do they have to be small, medium, or also big companies can be involved?
Okay, so like yes, but not exactly. So how? What is necessary? I wouldn't call it mandatory, but implicitly necessary in a consortium, the involvement of non-academic partners. Doesn't have to be a company at all, but let me give you an example. Like you are doing research on climate adaptation, like hard science, natural science research, doing chemistry on the degradation of material and climate adaptation. The MSCA style is that we would find in the consortium a think tank working on sociology or anthropology to study, the reaction of the communities, for instance. So you can have an NGO or a charity or a hospital, but of course, you have companies as well. companies, between small and medium startups or big companies, there is no difference as long as it fits, what the project is trying to do. So the short answer is it's very much looked favorably upon for a consortium of doctoral network to include an important component of non-academia, any non-academia. And just to give you an idea, about maybe 40 to 50% of the composition of doctoral networks on average are non-academia.
Okay, we move another questions. Global fellowships. How long should the period in the hosting institution be? On the side, it was written 12, 2 years. Is that a range?
Yeah, it is a range. That is, here we are talking the period in the foreign, let's say, foreign institution, the one outside Europe. Minimum 1 year, maximum 2 years. So it's a range.
Perfect. Another question. Good afternoon. Is New Zealand considered as non-associated third country for MSCA programs?
Yes, I think they recently associated to Pillar 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, but not for
Pillar 1. Yeah. Then we have a co-fund. What is the minimum percentage that an entity is required to co-finance? So question concerning co-fund. What is the minimum percentage that an entity is required to co-finance?
For the okay,
normal co-fund, yes.
Yeah, this I have to get back to you. I don't know if you're going to be having sort of a communicating with the audience afterwards, Angelo, or
yeah, of course. So
I can just email it to you. Huh?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Minimum percentage for co-fund.
Yes.
Okay.
Another question, is it an asset if postdoctoral fellowship project involve multiple countries within or outside Europe?
Okay. Now, as I said, of course, this is a mono-beneficiary action. So it's just one institution, one country. You can have an associated partner for the reason of secondments and so forth, but it's not something that particularly favors the project or disfavors the project.
Okay. How is possible that the same proposal MSCA was scored 95 in call 2023 and then 78 in call 2024, so without possibility to submit in 2025?
But no, this I mean, that's not a kind of question I can answer. I mean, in the sense that it will be a very abstract answer. I mean, there's so many details involved, so I cannot say anything on this one.
Okay, we can take the last one concerning the MSCA and citizens. Are there specific criteria for the consortium, such as a minimum number of partner or provenance of institutes?
Yes, there are actually minimum criteria for all the actions I mentioned. I didn't mention them because it's just an overview, but it is like really mentioned so clearly in the work program, very clearly.
Okay.
For all the actions, it's for this minimum composition. It's not, let's say, it's not a confusing part.
Yeah. Okay, dear Sahil, thanks for your participation in our National Info Day and for your clear presentation. So, thanks.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, everybody, for the questions.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Adesso ci spostiamo al prossimo relatore. Invitiamo al palco virtuale la professoressa Luisa Torsi, rappresentante italiana del comitato di programma Horizon Europe MSCA, che ci dà aggiornamenti su quanto è stato fatto dalla rappresentata al comitato di programma per risolvere il problema della situazione dei contratti. Grazie Luisa per questa collaborazione preziosa veramente in questo periodo quasi quotidiana la nostra collaborazione. Grazie Luisa.
È così, grazie a te Angelo, grazie a te Apre, al suo direttore, alla presidente, è stata veramente una collaborazione proficua. Mi avvisi tu quando sta finendo l'orario? Grazie mille. Allora, quello che abbiamo fatto è, siamo partiti da un problema. Con l'abolizione degli assegni di ricerca, l'Italia si è vista improvvisamente sprovvista di un strumento legislativo consono a assumere i dottorandi e i postdoc MSCA secondo le regole europee. Ricordiamo che l'Europa impone che sia ai dottorandi che ai postdoc sia offerto un contratto di lavoro anche non subordinato che permetta quindi diretto anche non subordinato, che permetta appunto di avere, oltre a tutto questo, anche tutte le garanzie di legge in termini proprio di quelli che in inglese appunto vengono definiti i social securities, quindi maternità, malattia, pensione, eccetera. Ora, purtroppo l'abolizione degli assegni di ricerca ha creato un momento di crisi, soprattutto per l'assunzione dei dottorandi, perché la presenza invece del contratto di ricerca, che nel frattempo è divenuto uno strumento utilizzabile, riesce a coprire molto bene coloro che hanno vinto una Marie Sklodowska Curie Action come postdoc. Per quanto riguarda invece i dottorandi, abbiamo un momento in cui appunto questa tipologia non è coperta, ma attraverso un'operazione che ha visto unite tutte le istituzioni di ricerca italiane, e in particolare, come diceva Angelo, la rappresentanza nazionale per questa configurazione, rappresentata appunto la sottoscritta e la delegata, la presidente dell'APRE, la professoressa Pedicchio, il professor Roberto Antonelli, presidente dell'Accademia Nazionale dei Lincei, il professor Antonio Felice Uricchio, presidente dell'ANVUR, la professoressa Maria Chiara Carrozza, già presidente del Consiglio Nazionale delle Ricerche, il professor Antonio Zoccoli, presidente della consulta dei presidi degli enti pubblici, nonché appunto dell'Istituto Nazionale di Fisica Nucleare, e la professoressa Ianna Antuoni, presidente della conferenza dei rettori, e il professor Giorgio Parisi, premio Nobel per la fisica. Ecco, abbiamo scritto una nota tecnica molto dettagliata e molto circoscritta in cui abbiamo evidenziato i termini del problema ai decisori politici e in particolare lo abbiamo indirizzata abbiamo indirizzato questa nota alla Commissione Cultura del Senato e che ha accolto la nostra richiesta e ha lavorato per accelerare l'approvazione di un emendamento della legge 240, in particolare l'emendamento Chiuto-Cattaneo, che specificatamente richiede uno strumento legislativo consono per le Marie Sklodowska-Curie Action. Questo emendamento è passato in Commissione Cultura, è passato al Senato, sono passati a maggioranza, adesso attendiamo l'approvazione sperabilmente alla Camera e poi la fine dell'iter legislativo. Quindi il messaggio che ci teniamo a dare a tutta la comunità scientifica italiana è che per le Marie Curie abbiamo, è in itinere la promulgazione di una legge che dia uno strumento idoneo, quindi fate domanda. Naturalmente questo non ha mai intaccato i postdoctoral network, quindi per coloro che hanno vinto queste borse lo strumento c'è ed è il contratto di ricerca, quindi vi invitiamo ai giovani talentuosi con il dottorato di fare sicuramente domanda per una borsa postdoc e di scegliere le istituzioni italiane di ricerca italiane come appunto sede in cui svolgere il vostro lavoro, e per tutti i colleghi impegnati attualmente nella stipula del grant agreement dei doctoral network, lo strumento sta per arrivare, l'iter dovrebbe concludersi sperabilmente entro un mese e quindi la situazione dovrebbe finalmente risolversi. Grazie veramente a tutti coloro che hanno partecipato a questo sforzo, ai decisori politici, perché è al Ministro che comunque ha dato grande attenzione a questo problema. E niente, grazie per l'attenzione a voi.
Grazie Luisa, grazie ancora per il tuo impegno e per la tua proattività. Aspettiamo quindi appunto giugno per vedere appunto se ci sono queste ulteriori novità. Grazie e continuiamo con il nostro Info Day. So now we have Anna Paula Mendonça from Marie Curie Alumni Association. Hi Anna, good morning.
Hello,
Thanks.
Good morning.
Hello, thanks for your participation and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Angelo. I'm very happy to be here and present a little bit about the MCAA. It's a great opportunity to explain you how the MCAA can help the researchers from the past and even for the present and even for the future. So I don't know if I control the slides. Yes. So before I go to the details, I want to explain who is talking to you. I am Ana Paula Mendonça, and I hold a PhD in biochemistry from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro since 2019. I was a DAG fellow, it's a German exchange, that I did in the University of Bremen in 2018 and 2019. And I arrived here in Italy in 2020, in the middle of pandemic. And since then, I was in the University of Padua, and where I got my Marie Curie individual fellowship in the life science sector. Since 2021, then I was involved in some scientific communications projects, like life science ambassadors, and I started with the MCAA, that I will explain you in the next slides, as a newsletter editor. And then I also participate with the Falling Walls Foundation as a female science talent. And today I am the chair of the Italian chapter. And what is the MCAA? I will explain after this slide. So basically, this is the structure of my presentation. I will explain you what is the MCAA, how is it structured. our annual conference. What is the annual conference? The Italian chapter, what we can do for candidates, for the MAHICOHI candidates, our project, and also members and collaborators, partners, we work together. So the MSCA was founded in 2012, and it's very dynamic and been growing a lot since then. We have more than 22,000 members, and it's based basically in Belgium. The membership is free, and it's open for the past and the present beneficiaries of the funding. And it's funded and supported by the European Commission Directorate General for Education and Culture. And of course, it provides a lot of lifetime opportunities, regardless the career path, the location, or the research field. The MSCA wants to bring together all the MAHICOHI communities and support the researcher career development. It wants to be a voice, advocate for the researchers. Our vision is always to be inclusive and have a sustainable research. And we always aim for connecting the MAHICOHI community for the career development and to advocate for the researchers. So we provide a lot of service. So we can provide contacts and network with social networking events. We can provide surveys, reports, analysis, recommendations. We can provide a lot of events organized by the chapters, the working groups that will explain you later. We can provide support with training and with Coursera collaboration. We can provide grants, especially for the past who was already a MAHICOHI and needs for something. We also can provide grants and awards for our members. So we are more than 22 members from 156 nationalities. Italians are the largest group of our community, followed by Spain, India, and Germany. And the biggest one, the biggest sector we have is engineering, life science, and social science. So how the MSCA is structured? So we have the association, and the association is divided by 3 parts. The MSCA board, which is compounded by the chair, vice chair, actually 2 vice chairs, treasurer, and the secretary. And between them, 2 are already Italians, Gianmaria Greco and Corinne Porcioli, the chair and the vice chair. The working group is divided by topics. So each group works in a specific topic. So we have research management work group, policy working group, gender equity, diversity and inclusion working group, communication working group, and career development working group. And finally, we have the MSCA chapters, which are the groups which are divided by regions. Africa with 1 chapter, Asia, Asia with 4 chapters, Southeast Asia with 1 chapter, Europe with 24 chapters, North America with 1 chapter, and South America with 5 chapters. And then we might be wondering how and when we can meet each other, how we can get together. And this happens with our annual conference that this year happened in Krakow, in Poland, in March. It's our flagship event, and we had 440 participants all over the world with different fields to discuss topics from science policy, mental health, and industry and academia collaboration. And this year, we had a great participation of the European Commission because in this year we launched the project that I was very glad to participate, which was the supervision guidelines. If you would like to understand what is the supervision guideline, please go to this QR code that you can see in your screen. And these guidelines were made to help institutions, researchers, postdocs, PhDs and supervisors how to better supervise people, project management institutions, how they collaborate with mental health, everything that involves supervision, and make a better supervision for the fellows. And finally, what is the MSCA Italy chapter board? So as I said, we have different regions in the world, and each region has chapters. In Europe, we have 24, and the Italian is one of the biggest one. I am the chair of the Italian chapter, and of course, I don't work alone. I have others working with me, like Mauricio Cardenas, which is a researcher and works in the University of Padova. Carlo Antonini, he is a professor in the University of Milan and is a board advisor. Flavia Corona, which is an event manager, and she's a researcher in the University of Milan. Mahesh Nagagoji, he is a communication manager and works in the University of Milan. And Claudio Kleiser, he is a board assistant and works in the University of Trento. The Italian chapter is one of the biggest chapter of the MSCA. These are the members which are one of the most active in our chapter. And if you are curious, if you are a Mahikuhi and you are not a member of our chapter, please go to this QR code with this link and be a member. I will be very happy to receive you in our chapter. And we use mainly the social media, the LinkedIn, to reach 568 followers. In terms of our activities, we had the one in-presence activity last year. It was the annual conference that happened in Milan, and our board advisor, Carlo Antonini, was one of the organizers, and we had a great conference that everybody remembers until today. And our last online event, it was pathways after the Mahikuhi Fellowship. We were able to invite 3 representatives from academia, European Commission, and private company, like Luca Tirinato, Anna Maria Rosinska, the policy officer of the European Commission office in Italy, and Antonino Biondo, he was the representative of the private company. And finally, every month we release a newsletter about what happened with the MSCA, and the members can also engage with us, and we stretch the communications between the MSCA and the members. And perhaps the most important part of the newsletter is the list of opportunities we put in our newsletter, where people can have access and exclusive access of fellowships, grant opportunities, trainings, some schools, everything that can be interesting for our members. And finally, what the MSCA can do for the candidates, for those who are applying for the Mahikuhi Fellowship. So basically, the Mahikuhi, the MSCA can strengthen your case when you are writing your proposal about networking and dissemination. Of course, the MSCA aligns with the Mahikuhi values like mobility, interdisciplinarity, and responsible research. We are a great database for global network, and with a current and a former Mahikuhi fellows. Like this, you can build collaborations and mentoring relationships. And we promote always free webinars about writing tips or panel discussions for Mahikuhi fellows. And since we promote a lot of activities and projects for our members, we always welcoming new people for our community, and we can get involved in science communication activities, policies, or science dissemination activities. And finally, the standard service of the MCA can also benefit you. The ones who was already Marie Curie fellows can have access to microgrants, or for example, the current and the former ones have access to Western roaming channels, which is a confidential platform dedicated to promote integrity and transparency with our research community, have access to mentoring platform with experienced mentors, building networking, and have the guidance with alumni experts. And you can also have access for a period of time, if I'm not wrong, 3 months, for Coursera, which is a great database for specific courses and specializations with very important universities in the world. Finally, you can have a look in all the projects that started in the MSCA in the past, and nowadays they are almost independent and they have a great voice in the research community, and they can also be important for you when you are writing about your proposal. And also our collaboration partners and members can engage with our community and always think for the best for the society. Have a look in everything that they can do together with us, and for sure this can be benefit for your proposal. I hope I was able to explain what the MSCA can do for you. Since you're gonna be applying for the Marie Curie Fellowship, I hope I could give an idea what you can do. Thank you very much. And if you would like to contact me, please write to this email. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna, for presenting us the MSCA. We have just a question. So now, voilà. Is MSCA also suitable for PhD students of MSCA doctoral network, or just for former MSCA postdoctoral fellowships?
I think for PhD it's also possible. You just need, when you are going to be a member, you need to put the number of your project, and then they accept you, and then you can decide which chapter you want to be part of.
Clear. So, thanks Anna, again.
Thank you.
Ringraziamo tutti i nostri graditi relatori per la loro partecipazione. Siamo in fase di chiusura dell'Info Day MSCA dedicata alle opportunità del 2025. Ringraziamo tutti voi partecipanti. Vi ricordo adesso l'appuntamento alle 15:30 con l'Info Day dedicata alle opportunità 2025 per infrastrutture di ricerca. Grazie e vi auguriamo una buona continuazione di lavori.